There are 3 containers sitting on the potting bench in my garden shed right now. An orange box of baking soda from the grocery store baking aisle, a red box of Borax from the laundry aisle, and a brown bottle of plain 3% hydrogen peroxide from the medicine cabinet. All 3 together cost less than $10. Every summer, at least one of them saves a crop in my garden, but every summer I also hear from good gardeners who grabbed the wrong one, poured it on with a generous hand, and ended up standing over a bed where nothing wants to grow. They sit on the same store shelves with the same harmless white look, and they behave wildly differently the moment they touch your garden. One of them belongs on your leaves and never in your dirt. One of them is a genuine emergency room in a bottle, and one of them is the strongest medicine on that bench, strong enough that the line between curing a garden and quietly ruining one comes down to a single level spoonful. Stay with me to the end, because one of these 3 does something in your soil that the other 2 cannot do. It does not break down, and it does not wash away with the next rain. Once you hear which one it is and why, you will never mix these 3 up again. I'm Bill, though most folks online know me as Backyard Bill. I've had my hands in garden dirt for 45 years, and I have spent the last 30 of them learning hard lessons on a little piece of land in rural Ohio, right alongside an Amish settlement. For too many of those years, I fought my garden with a rototiller and a shelf of chemicals I could not pronounce, and I lost. The best of what I know now came from across the fence, from my Amish neighbors, and most of all from my friend Daniel. Now, if you have spent any time looking up garden advice lately, you have seen all 3 of these promised as a cure for nearly everything. Sprinkle baking soda around the tomatoes for sweeter fruit, dust borax across the lawn to kill weeds, pour hydrogen peroxide on anything that looks sad, and what those tips never tell you is the part that matters most. Natural does not mean gentle. Each of these 3 changes your garden in its own way, on its own clock, and the doses that separate help from harm are nowhere near the same. Get the baking soda wrong and you scorch a few leaves. Get the peroxide wrong and you set a potted plant back a week or 2. Get the borax wrong and you can take a whole garden bed out of service for years. Not the plant, the bed itself. And before we are done today, I will show you exactly why. My Amish neighbors have kept their farms going on simple pantry goods for generations. And the difference between their results and the mess I used to make comes down to one thing. They learned each product's one real job and its one right dose, and they never ask one box to do another box's work. So that is what today is. One job, one honest recipe, and one plain warning for each of the 3. And hold on to that question about the one that never washes away, because when that answer lands at the end of this video, it is going to change the way you look at your own laundry shelf. Now, before we open the first box, let me be square with you about where all of this comes from. These 3 recipes are the medicine cabinet, and what I really want for you is a garden that hardly ever needs one. That bigger system is what I wrote down in a book called The 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol. It is the complete old world system I learned from my Amish neighbors for building a garden that defends itself from pests without chemicals, laid out as a 30-day protocol any home gardener can follow. It is 117 pages, and right now it is $17, marked down from $47. Set that against a shelf of sprays bought again every single season, and it is the easiest math in gardening. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, first box. The orange one straight off the baking aisle. Baking soda is plain sodium bicarbonate, the same white powder that raised your mother's biscuits, and in the garden, it has exactly one job it does well. That job is up on the leaves, and the enemy is powdery mildew. If you grow squash, zucchini, cucumbers, pumpkins, or melons, you have met it. It shows up in the humid stretch of late summer, a white dusty film across the tops of the leaves, like somebody walked down the row with a flower sifter. It gets after zinnias and bee balm and lilacs too. You can tell mildew from plain road dust with one swipe of your thumb. Dust wipes clean and stays gone. Mildew smears, and it is back on that same spot inside of 2 days. Left alone, it creeps from leaf to leaf until the whole plant is gray and tired, and your vines quit setting fruit a month early. Here is why a box from the baking aisle can stand up to a fungus. Mildew spores are picky about where they settle. They want a leaf surface that leans slightly to the acid side. A thin film of baking soda tips that leaf surface the other way toward alkaline. And the spores that land there cannot get started. And that tells you the most important thing about this spray. It protects clean leaves. It does not bring gray ones back. Baking soda is a fence, and a fence keeps trouble out. Nobody ever built a fence to chase trouble back off the property. So here is the recipe, and take your time with it. There is no rush. Fill a clean 1-gallon jug with plain water. Add 1 level tablespoon of baking soda. That is 1 tablespoon, not a 1/4 cup, no matter what your instincts whisper. Add 1 teaspoon of mild liquid dish soap. The soap does no fighting at all. Its only job is helping the water spread and cling to the leaf instead of beating up and rolling off. Put the cap on and roll the jug gently until the powder dissolves. Then pour it into a pump sprayer or an ordinary spray bottle. Before you treat the whole patch, test it. Pick 1 leaf, spray that 1 leaf and walk away. Come back the next evening and look at it. If that leaf is happy after a full day, you are clear to spray the rest. Do your spraying in the evening after the heat has gone out of the sun. Coat the tops of the leaves and the undersides too, because the undersides are where trouble hides. Repeat once a week through the humid months, and again after a hard rain washes the film off. That is the whole method. Spray in the evening once a week, tops and bottoms. Now let me save you from the 3 mistakes I watch folks make every single summer. Mistake 1 is spraying at noon on a bright day. Wet leaves under July sun scorch faster than mildew could ever hurt them. Mistake 2 is deciding that if 1 tablespoon works, then 3 tablespoons must work better. They do not. They burn the leaf edges brown and crisp, and then a fellow swears the whole method is junk when the method was never the problem. Mistake 3 is the big one. Do not pour baking soda into your soil. You have probably heard the old story that a sprinkle around the tomatoes makes the fruit sweeter. It does not, and it cannot, because the tomato sweetness comes from sunshine and the variety you planted, and no powder on earth changes that. What that powder will do is load your bed with sodium, and sodium is hard on ground. It stiffens the soil crumb, it crusts the surface after rain, and the earthworms pack up and move to the neighbors. Keep this box up on the leaves where it earns its keep. One more warning while we are standing in the baking aisle. Baking soda and washing soda are not the same thing, no matter how much the boxes look alike. Washing soda is sodium carbonate, a far harsher salt, and it has no business anywhere near a living plant. Read the box twice. Bicarbonate is the word you want. I will tell you what Daniel does about mildew, and it took me years to see the sense in it. He hardly sprays at all. He plants his squash rows wide with room between them for the morning air to move through, so the leaves dry off early instead of sitting damp until noon. Dry leaves and moving air almost never catch mildew in the first place. The spray is for the seasons when the weather refuses to cooperate. That is the difference between treating symptoms and building a system, and we will come back to that before we are through. So that is the orange box. It guards leaves, politely and cheaply, and that is all it does. It will not lift one finger against the ants marching up those same plants, herding aphids like little dairy cattle. For the ants, we need the red box, the one I handle with more respect than anything else on that bench. Borax is a different creature altogether, and I want you to know what it is before you ever open the box. Borax is sodium tetraborate, a natural mineral salt dug out of dry lake beds in the California desert. Your great-grandmother knew it as a laundry booster, and the 20 mule teams that hauled it out of Death Valley in the 1880s are still printed right on the box. It is old, it is cheap, and it is honest. It is also, spoonful for spoonful, the strongest thing I own, because borax carries an element called boron, and boron is going to be the whole ending of this video. Hold on to that. For now, the red box has 2 jobs in my garden, and only 2. Job 1 is ants. Ants rarely eat your plants directly. They do something sneakier. Ants farm aphids the way a dairyman keeps cows. They carry aphids up onto your beans and your roses. They stand guard against the ladybugs that would clean those aphids off, and they milk them for the sweet honeydew they produce. Break up the ant colony, and half the time the aphid problem collapses on its own within a couple of weeks because the ladybugs finally get to do their work. Here is the bait I've trusted for years, and the amounts matter, so go slowly. Take 1½ cups of warm water. Stir in ½ cup of plain white sugar. Now add 1½ tablespoons of borax. That is 1½ tablespoons, and here is why the number is the whole trick. Make the bait too strong and it kills the first worker ant before she gets home, and the colony learns to avoid it. Make it right and she carries it back down the hole, shares it around, and feeds it to the queen, and the whole colony fades out quietly over about 2 weeks. Soak a few cotton balls in the mixture. Set each wet cotton ball on a jar lid or a plastic bottle cap. Lay those lids directly along the ant trail wherever you see the line of traffic. Leave the mound itself alone. Keep every bit of this bait where dogs, cats, and grandchildren cannot reach it, because borax is nothing to snack on. Refresh the cotton balls every 2 or 3 days, then be patient. You will see more ants at the bait in the first few days, not fewer, and that is exactly what you want. Give it the full 2 weeks. One wrinkle before we move on: not every ant has a sweet tooth. Some kinds will march right past sugar because what they are hunting is grease and protein. If your ants ignore the sugar bait for 3 or 4 days, mix that same 1½ tablespoons of borax into ½ cup of peanut butter instead, and set it out the same way on lids along the trail and out of reach of pets and children. Same slow medicine, different dinner. Job 2 is rarer, but when you need it, nothing else in the house will do. Boron is a nutrient plants require in tiny amounts, the way you and I need a trace of iron, and some ground runs short of it, especially sandy soil in rainy country. A garden short on boron writes you a note if you know how to read it. Broccoli stems that look fine outside and turn out hollow and brown inside. Cauliflower heads that brown and go bitter at the curd. Beets with hard black centers. Apples with dry corky spots hiding in the flesh. If you have seen those, here is the old fix. Dissolve 1 level tablespoon of borax in 1 gallon of warm water. Sprinkle that gallon evenly with a watering can across 100 square feet of bed. That is 1 tablespoon in 1 gallon spread across 100 square feet, a bed 10 feet by 10 feet, once a season at the very most. And if you are not certain your soil is short, spend a few dollars on a soil test through your county extension office before you pour anything. Hollow broccoli stems are a strong hint. A soil test is proof, and here is where I get strict with you, because this part is what protects you. Never use borax in a flower pot or any container. A pot has no depth to spread it through and no rain to move it along, and there is no room in there for even a small mistake. Never spread borax as a weed killer in or near a bed you ever hope to plant again. Yes, It kills weeds, it kills them by poisoning the ground under them, and it does not know where the weed ends and your tomatoes begin. Never eyeball it. Level spoons, measured water, measured ground every single time. Wear gloves if your skin runs sensitive, and wash your hands when you are done, the same as you would with any fertilizer. Daniel put it better than I ever could. Strong medicine, small spoon. The old farm recipes always said a level tablespoon, and some of them underlined the word level. And by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly why. We are getting close. So the red box lives on the top shelf, used twice a year at the most, measured like medicine and respected like it too. Which brings us to the brown bottle. And I will say this plainly, if something went wrong in my garden tonight and I could grab only one of these three on the way out the door, the bottle is the one I would grab. Hydrogen peroxide is the simplest of the three to understand once somebody explains it, and I would bet money nobody ever has. Look at the label on that brown bottle. 3% hydrogen peroxide, and the rest is water. Hydrogen peroxide itself is nothing more than water carrying one extra oxygen atom, and that atom rides along like a passenger who wants off at the very next stop. Every bit of good this bottle does comes from that restless atom jumping off. The fizz you see when peroxide hits trouble is the sound of it working. And remember this, for the end of the video, that fizz is also the sound of it disappearing. Its first job is the rescue, and this one has saved more plants at my place than everything else on the bench combined. Picture a potted plant that droops like it is dying of thirst while the soil is still wet. The pot smells sour, a little like a swamp. Tip the plant out and the roots are brown and soft instead of white and firm. That plant is not thirsty, it is drowning. Waterlogged soil runs out of air, the roots begin to suffocate, and the rot that thrives where air cannot reach moves in and starts eating. Here is the rescue, and it is simple. Mix 1 part 3% peroxide with 4 parts plain water. For a normal house plant pot, 1 cup of peroxide and 4 cups of water is plenty. Pour the mixture slowly through the pot until it runs out the drain holes. Listen close and you may hear a faint fizzing down in the soil. That fizz is oxygen going straight to roots that we're smothering, and it is burning through the rot as it travels. Then comes the part that makes the rescue stick. Let that pot dry out properly before you water it again. The peroxide buys the plant a second chance. Your watering can decides what happens with it, and that same 1 to 4 mixture poured the same way also kills fungus gnat larvae in the soil. Those little black flies that float up from a houseplant every time you walk past it. Job 2 is seeds and seedlings. If you save your own seed, and I hope you do, give the seeds a short bath in plain 3% peroxide straight from the bottle for about 5 minutes, then rinse them well in clean water and let them dry. That quick bath cleans disease off the seed coat, so you are not planting this year's crop and last year's problems in the same hole. For old stubborn seed packets, the ones from 4 or 5 years back that you almost threw away, soak the seeds overnight in 1 teaspoon of peroxide, stirred into 1 cup of warm water. It softens that hard old coat and wakes up seed you had given up on. And over in the seed tray, if your little seedlings start toppling over at the soil line, pinch thin like somebody squeezed each stem with tweezers, that is a fungus called damping off, and a gentle misting of the soil surface with the same 1 to 4 mix will usually stop it before it takes the whole tray. Job 3 takes 10 minutes a season and prevents more heartbreak than any spray ever cured. Disinfecting. Wipe your pruner blades with straight 3% every time you move from a sick plant to a healthy one, especially among the roses and the tomatoes. Before you reuse last year's seed trays and pots, wash them and wipe them down with peroxide. Do the same for tomato cages and stakes that stood in a bed where blight came through. Disease rides through winter on dirty tools and dirty pots, and this bottle closes that door for about $2. 2 cautions, and they are small ones. First, peroxide cannot tell a good microbe from a bad one in the moment it fizzes. It is a rescue, never a routine. Pour it through your pots every week as some kind of tonic, and you are knocking down the very soil life you've been working to build. Use it when something is wrong and put it away when things are right. You will also run into claims that regular peroxide waterings make roots grow faster and seedlings come up bigger. I have not seen it in all my years, and I would not spend your $2 chasing it. Let this bottle be great at what it is truly great at. Second, buy the plain brown bottle of 3% from the pharmacy shelf. Nothing scented, nothing fancy. Leave those jugs of 35% so-called food-grade peroxide alone entirely. That strength burns skin on contact, and nothing in a home garden needs it. And keep your bottle cap tight in a dark cupboard, because light and air use it up. If you wonder whether an old bottle is still good, pour a splash on a slice of raw potato. A fresh bottle fizzes right up. No fizz means it has already turned into plain water, and $2 buys you a new one. So there is the bottle. It rescues, it cleans, and then it disappears. And that word disappears is the door to everything I have been promising you since the top of this video. You have all 3 in front of you now. It is time for the verdict and for the reason underneath it. Here is the question I planted at the start. One of these 3 does something in your soil that the other 2 cannot do. It does not break down and does not wash away with the next rain. Now you know enough to hear the real answer. Start with the bottle. Hydrogen peroxide is built to vanish. Within hours of touching soil, that restless extra oxygen has jumped off and done its work, and what remains is plain water and plain air. By the next morning, as far as your garden is concerned, it was never there. That is why the bottle is the forgiving one. You can be a little clumsy with peroxide, and the garden shrugs and moves on. The orange box leaves something behind: sodium. Sodium is a real nuisance, and it is the whole reason I told you to keep baking soda off your soil. But sodium has a weakness. It dissolves easily, and it travels wherever water goes. In a bed with decent drainage, one wet spring rinses it down past the roots and away. Careless baking soda costs you a season at the worst, because the rain itself is on your side. The red box is the answer, and here is the why I promised you. Borax leaves boron behind, and boron is an element. Let me say plainly what that means. Sunlight does not break boron down. No microbe can eat it. Winter cannot crack it apart. There is no version of boron turning into something milder ever, because it is already as simple as matter gets. The only way boron leaves your root zone is by washing slowly downward and in heavier ground and clay like half of Ohio sits on. That trip can take years. Now set that beside the other thing about boron. Of everything you will ever give a garden, boron has the narrowest gap between not enough and too much. The same level tablespoon that cures 100 square feet of hollow broccoli dumped instead around one unlucky tomato plant poisons that patch of ground for seasons. Seedlings come up weak and scorched, leaf edges yellow and curl, and there is nothing you can spray and nothing you can dig in to fix it. You wait for years of rain to do what nothing else can. That is why the old recipes underline the word level. Somewhere behind every one of those recipes was a gardener who learned it the hard way and salted a bed they loved. So there is my verdict, 45 years in the dirt. The brown bottle is the keeper. If I could hold on to only one of the 3, it is the peroxide, because it saves plants in real emergencies and then has the good manners to disappear completely. The orange box Borax has earned its place on the shelf, but it is the most oversold of the three. It has one real job. It does that job politely, and nearly every other claim you have heard about it is a campfire story. And the red box is the one I respect the most. Rationed like medicine, measured with level spoons, used twice a year at the very most. It fixes things nothing else in the house can touch. Handled any other way, it is the only one of the three that can truly break your ground. And that brings me to the last thing, the thing Daniel would want me to say. The best gardeners I have ever known live right across my fence, and they hardly open the medicine cabinet at all. Their gardens are built so that trouble mostly passes them by. The garden was never supposed to be a war. The real work and the real peace is in building a garden that defends itself. And that is the heart of what Daniel taught me. And it is exactly why I wrote the 30-day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol. The book is the whole system, all 30 days of it, layer by layer, so your garden can start defending itself this season and the medicine cabinet can gather dust. It is $17 right now, marked down from $47, and that is less than one season of the sprays it replaces. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So once more, short and sweet. The orange box for the leaves, the brown bottle for the rescues, and the red box with respect on a level spoon twice a year at the most. Tell me in the comments which pest is winning in your garden right now and what you've thrown at it so far. I read every single one. And next time I'm going to show you what to do with the wood ashes from a winter stove, because there are two garden beds where a coffee can of ashes outworks anything at the garden center, and one common crop where a single scoop will cost you the whole harvest. Work with nature, not against it, and I'll see you in the garden.